Good morning. If you're in the US, this is the IDF's morning brief. It is Monday, July 15th. The multi-front Iranian war against Israel in the Middle East is now 283 days old. I am IDF Lieutenant Colonel in Reserves Jonathan Conricus, former IDF spokesperson, international spokesperson, and current senior fellow at FDD, filling in for Jonathan Chanzer again, very happily doing so. And Jonathan, I wish you great endeavors. And you're welcome back to the FDD morning brief. Our guest today is a special expert, very knowledgeable in Palestinian and Arab affairs. He is the Palestinian and Arab affairs correspondent of Israel's Channel 12 News, which is the most viewed and most influential Israeli TV news station. If anyone has been keeping tabs on Palestinian society in Judea and Samaria and Gaza, and a good look at Lebanese society, that is Ohad Chemo. He will be with us and will be sharing his expertise as we analyze recent events in Gaza and how the current situation in Lebanon and Judea and Samaria might influence the continued situation of the war. A short, I'd say, statement before we go into the details of today's headlines. The first after-action review conducted by the IDF and signed off on by the IDF Chief of Staff was released last week, and it set into motion a lot of events. It is the first and by no means the last one. We will see an addition or many more after-action reviews coming to light, presented to the Israeli public, to families of the murdered Israelis, whether they were soldiers or civilians. FDD covered it, and I can say that this will be a very challenging time for many Israelis. Heated political debate, military and political are meeting and clashing, and the blame game is very much on, something that our enemies for sure will be paying lots of attention to. And it might be forgotten easily by people that the point of it is to learn and to be better for the future. There's a lot to learn from how the IDF failed on October the 7th, and I think that that FDD will continue to monitor these reports and hopefully make the best of it for the sake of US interest, but also for the sake of the region. With that, a few headlines about the current situation. No surprise that the number one headline is the question: has the mastermind of Hamas's atrocities on October the 7th finally met his maker? We do not know, but perhaps Ohad Chemo, our guest, will have details and insights into it. But on Saturday, for those of you who aren't perhaps aware because of other global news or American news during the weekend, on Saturday, the IDF conducted a strike in the El Mouassi area, an agricultural area in southern Gaza, that may have eliminated Mohammed Deif, the elusive leader of Izzadin al-Qassam brigades, the military part of the terrorist organization Hamas. We don't know, but even if Deif ends up crawling out of the shadows again, like the cockroach that he is, it's still a good achievement because the brigade commander, Rafa Salama, another high-ranking Hamas official, has been confirmed killed in that same strike, and we are waiting for official news from Hamas or from Israel about the fate of Mohammed Deif. He's been on Israel's most wanted list for decades, second only in terms of Hamas to the top terrorist Yahya Sinwar. Shifty figure who has never made a public appearance, and there's only very few pictures of him, despite his high-ranking position within the organization. For over 3 decades, Deif rose through the ranks of Hamas. He has enhanced the capacity from scratch to what it was before October the 7th, was the mastermind behind the October 7 attacks, was a very powerful force behind the suicide bombing campaign against Israeli civilians that Hamas did in the early years of the 2000s. And he, of course, since the attacks of October the 7th, the so-called Al-Aqsa floods, how Hamas calls it, has been hiding and actively directing Hamas combat activities against Israelis, both military and civilian. To no surprise, both the Washington Post, ABC News, and other American outlets have been quoting the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, Some of them, they dub it now local health officials instead of calling it for what it is. And they've been using Hamas figures again when providing details of the results of the attack, specifically the amount of casualties. Hamas, as usual, trying to paint a picture of a mass casualty event of civilians, where we in fact know that the IDF struck an area which was not where refugees or internally displaced people were. It was a Hamas center, or the command center of the Southern Brigade of Khan Yunis, where the brigade commander was, and lots of other terrorists. But the usual blame game is on, and many US outlets are playing along with the Hamas handbook. The second headline, and we will hear more about the first in just a moment with Ohad Chemo. The second headline is actually positive. Argentina is breaking new ground by designating Hamas as a terrorist organization. On July 12th, Argentina made history as the first country in Latin America to designate Hamas as a terrorist organization, including freezing of financial assets. The President Millei's statement referenced to the October 7th attack in Israel, where 7 Argentinian citizens were killed and 15 taken hostage. And of course, he highlighted Hamas's ties with the Iranian regime. For the people in Argentina, the threat of Iran and its proxies is, of course, deeply personal. In 1992, Iranian-backed terrorists bombed the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires, killing 29 people and injuring nearly 250 others. The Islamic Republic of Iran also bears responsibility for the 1994 attack on the AMIA Jewish Center in Buenos Aires, the capital, the deadliest terror attack in Argentina's history, which killed 85 people and wounded more than 300. The 30th anniversary of this tragic event will be marked on July 18th, this week. And the quote from the president was that Argentina must again align itself with Western civilization, emphasizing the importance of standing against entities such as Hamas and the Islamic Republic that seek to undermine it. The question remains, and I think that we can give ourselves the answer, will other Latin American countries follow suit? For those with strong anti-Israeli governments and policies, such as Chile, Bolivia, and recently Colombia, each of these countries severed ties with Israel weeks or months after the October 7 attacks. I think it's unlikely, but we, of course, can continue to hope for positive developments. Last headline. On Friday, 118 United Nations member states publicly declared support for none else than UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Work Agency. That's the same agency that keeps Palestinians stuck in almost perpetual refugee status, facilitates anti-Semitic education in its schools, and turns a blind eye and even supports and actively aids Hamas and other terrorists. The news surrounding UNRWA, particularly since October 7, has been nothing short of a total mess. News agencies and officials alike have attempted to paint a picture of UNRWA as a misunderstood organization. And the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has even boldly stated that there is no alternative to UNRWA. That is just like saying there's no alternative to Hamas in Gaza. However, the evidence of UNRWA's staff complacency and active involvement in the attacks of the October 7th massacre and its aftermath really is very clear and damning, and it really puts a question mark behind the statements of the Secretary General of the UN. With those 3 headlines in mind, I am now...
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.